Okay, last lesson on rational numbers, and it's doing BEDMAS with rational numbers. So this is it. This is the ugliest questions you're going to get with decimals and fractions. So remember BEDMAS, brackets, exponents, dividing, multiplying, and then adding, subtracting. Dividing, multiplying are at the same level as each other, and so are adding, subtracting. So if you have a dividing, multiplying, the order that you choose is you go left to right. Same thing adding, subtracting, they're in the same level as each other. So if you have an adding, subtracting, you go left to right in order. But dividing, multiplying come before adding, subtracting. So let's take a look at this. You've got an adding and a multiplying. What do you do first? It's so tempting to do this first, but we're not going to do this first. Multiplying comes first, so we do that first. Get in the habit of underlining it so it stands out in your brain. Your brain focuses on it. 1.5 times 4. Now, you're allowed to use calculators in grade 9, so you can use a calculator, but 1.5 times 4, if you just think about it, 1 times 4 is 4, and then 5 times 4 is 20, but it's 0.5 times 4, that's 2, so it's 6. Whether you did that in your head or you got a calculator, that's fine. And then you do the plus and 8. Now, if on a calculator you punched in 8 plus 1.5 times 4, you would get the wrong answer. You gotta follow BEDMAS. Calculators don't follow BEDMAS. They just follow the order that you punch in, you put the numbers in. So don't get crazy with using the calculator. You still have to sort of put some thought into this first. Anyways, 8 plus 6 is 14, and you're done. Okay, this one here, a little trickier, a little uglier, a little scarier. You've got an adding, a dividing, and a multiplying. So obviously dividing is going to come first over the adding. Now is the dividing or multiplying going to happen? Well, again, they're at the same level as each other. And when there's a tie, as there is between dividing and multiplying, you go left to right. So we do this one first. 1.2 divided by 0.3. And to get this, and if you're afraid to use a calculator, if you're afraid to do it by hand, you can use a calculator. But again, when you look at it, you've got a number that's 12-ish, like kind of 12 divided by 3. You should get 0.4, don't you think? So just 1.2 divided by 0.3. Sorry, you should get 4, my bad. You get 4. When you look at the signs though, positive, negative, so it should be negative 4. Don't forget about that. Now let's bring everyone else down. We've got a double sign here, a plus minus. That will just become a minus. Alright, next we're going to multiply these together. Multiplying comes before adding or subtracting. 4 times 1.5 we did above. That's going to be 6. Bring down the minus and bring down the negative 0.8. And remember, if you're going to do this by hand, on paper, the signs are the same, so that means we're going to add them together. So 0.8 plus 6 is 6.8. Takes the sign of the number that's farthest away from 0, which that minus sign also means negative 6. So you have negative 6.8. Or you can use a calculator. Again, if you cannot just punch this into a calculator, it'll get it wrong for you. You have to do it in the right order. The calculator does not know the right order. Okay, here's an interesting question. Converting from Celsius, degrees Celsius, which we have here in Canada and in, I think, most of Europe and stuff, uses Celsius for figuring out the temperature outside. And in the United States, they use Fahrenheit. And they are different scales. Like when someone says in the United States, if they say it's 32 degrees outside, we think, oh my God, that's really hot, like August weather. But 32 degrees to an American means it's freezing, like 0 degrees Celsius. So there are different scales. Okay, so let's say you're told that the temperature outside is negative 4.2 degrees Fahrenheit. What would that be in degrees Celsius? So here's a formula, and we can, like we do with all formulas, substitute the number for Fahrenheit into here. So you put the negative 4.2 in, and usually, like I say, whatever you're substituting in should go in brackets. We're subbing in the negative 4.2 into there, minus 32 over 1.8. Now, I know you have a subtraction and you think of dividing. If you do the dividing first, you think, but you don't. Actually, there's like an unwritten rule. When you have this big long dividing sign, it kind of comes with brackets on the top, or comes with the brackets with whatever questions in there. So you have negative 4.2 minus 32. You're down 4.2, you're down 32 more, you're going to be down 36.2. So you're going to be down 36.2. And that's all divided by 1.8. And then you can use a calculator for that. 36.2 divided by 1.8. Let's not forget about the negative sign. 2.1 repeating. Sorry, what was that again? Did I see that right? Not 2.1, it was 20.1, wasn't it? 36.2 divided by 1.8 is 20.1 repeating, yes. So don't forget the negative sign. Signs are different. Negative 20.1 repeating degrees Celsius. Okay, so negative 4.2 Fahrenheit doesn't sound that bad, but when you convert to Celsius, yeah, it actually is pretty cold. All right, now let's get crazy with fractions and BEDMAS. You have a divided by, you've got, and in our brackets, you've got an adding and an exponent. Well, BEDMAS, the B for BEDMAS is right here, brackets. We have to do the brackets first. Common denominator between these two is going to be 4. So that stays 1/4. This will become times 2, do the same to the top. You get 6 over 4. Bring everything else down. We do this and that. Here is what we do next. And negative 1 plus 6. You're down 1, you're up 6. You're up 5 over 4. That's all squared. Divided by 5/6. Now, what are we going to do? Well, we don't do the dividing. We do the E for exponents next. And remember the exponent rules from a while ago. This squared thing squares each number in the fractions. It squares that and it squares that. 5 squared then is 25. 4 squared is 16. So the question then becomes 5/6 divided by 25 over 16. Now remember, when you're dividing, you change this into a multiply and you flip this. So 5/6 times 16 over 25. The flip, or the reciprocal, is this. Now you got some big numbers. Oh, remember the cross-canceling thing. Can we cross-cancel here? Yes, we can. 5 and 25. 5 goes in there once. 5 goes in there 5 times. 6 and 16, they're both even numbers. For sure, 2 goes into them. 2 goes in here 8 times. It goes in here 3 times. And now you're left with 1 times 8, which is 8, over 3 times 5, 15. The answer is 8/15. Okay, last one. It's a doozy. Now, you don't freak out when you see questions like this. Just follow your rules. BEDMAS. We have a dividing, but we have brackets. In the brackets, we've got an adding and a multiplying. Now, some of you are thinking, yeah, but you got brackets in there. There's not a question in the brackets. So when we're talking about BEDMAS brackets, we're talking about, is there a question in the brackets? And if there is, you do that first. This is just brackets to keep the negative sign away from the positive sign, to keep it clean. Okay, so that's that kind of not the same brackets we're talking about when we talk about BEDMAS brackets. Anyways, adding and multiplying. What are we going to do first? We're going to do the multiplying. Let's underline that. Negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. 2 times 5 is 10. 1/10. Add that to 2/3. Bring everybody else down. We're going to add these two together. You need a common denominator. It's going to be 30. So something over 30 plus over 30. You get to times that by 10, times that by 10, that's 20. Times this by 3, times that by 3, that's negative 3. So that's in there, divided by negative 3/4. And now, common denominator is there, so we just do the tops, leave the bottom. 20 plus negative. That just becomes a negative sign, right? Double sign. So it's 20 minus 3, which is 17 over 30, because you leave the bottom. And you divide by, or have the 3/4 divided by 17 over 30. All right, next. Change the divide to a multiply and flip this. So negative 3/4 times 30 over 17. Now here we see if we can cross cancel, which we can, not with the 3 and 17, but we can with the 4 and the 30. 2 goes into both those numbers. 2 goes in here twice, goes in there 15 times. Negative 3 times 15 is negative 45. Again, negative, positive, signs different. And then 2 times 17 is 34. That's an improper fraction. We're going to have to change that around. 34 goes in there once with 11 left over 34. Don't forget, it's negative, so the 1 gets that. And the answer is negative 1 over, negative 1 and 11/34. Here's your 4 questions for skill testing. Thank you, bye-bye.